Hello, this video is an introduction to Calchart 3.6.1. I'm going to talk today about two new features we added to Calchart with 3.6.1, and I'm also going to assume that you're familiar already with Calchart 3.6.0 and all of those changes. So we're going to dive right into the new things we've added, which was instrument assignment and sprites. As always, Calchart starts on this little mini page here, which allows you to check which version you currently have installed, and also allows you a quick link for checking on the latest version to make sure you have it, or to report an issue. And when you click on report an issue, that'll open up a Safari page to where you can write a bug about anything you found. All right, so let's get into it. So I'm going to open an example show that shows off our new features. So once you open the show, you'll notice there's a bit of a change, very subtle change to our toolbars. We've split the toolbars into two sets. We have the main controls toolbar, and here now we have our marcher dot toolbar, where you can manipulate the symbols for a marcher or which label they're on. And we've moved the lassos and transitions over, lassos and moves onto the side. Now, these toolbars, because of the advanced windowing system, can always be pulled off and moved somewhere else. If you would like to move it to, say, onto the side and add them there, or they can always be removed. And you can bring them back by going to the show lassos and moving them back into a place that makes more sense for your workflows. So let's go ahead and put that there and bring this back to here. Okay. If you ever get into a situation where you've lost a window, you can always go to the preferences and reset all, which will reset all of the windows back to their original configuration. Let's talk about instrument assignments. So we've had the ability to make specific specific marchers with an instrument type. For example, in this show, the L is going to be all trumpets. I can see that because when I click on a marcher, I have a status bar in the bottom here that shows me that that is in fact that marcher is trumpet. It should be noted that the marcher's symbol and assignment, instrument assignment can be different. They don't have to be the same. You can have several different instruments in a symbol group, or you can have several different symbol groups for an instrument. An instrument is assigned throughout the show. So this will be a trumpet player throughout all of the pages, just as similar as their label is A0 in this case. By default, a marcher with no instrument is simply given the term default. So we say that this is a default instrument here. It'll help when you start a new show from scratch. It should also be noted that you don't have to assign instruments. This is merely a convenience. This is just for whatever you'd like to do with it. So with instrument assignments, I can easily pull down and select all of the trumpets in a particular show. And so that could be useful for knowing where they are throughout a show or selecting them. There are additionally, we've made it easier to select groups of points. For example, by clicking on this with a single click on the symbol groups, I can select that group pretty easily. And in addition, we have a point picker, which allows you to select all or perhaps any number of different selection types you want. Let's say I would like to do just that group, or with our new instruments, I can go and pick just a particular set of instruments. So how do you assign instruments? So let's take a look at one thing we could do perhaps in this show. This show, we have this group over here. We would like to be all percussion. So what I'll do here for this percussion block is I will select them, and then I go into the editor and go to the Set Instruments. Now on the Set Instruments page, I can see I can select which one I want at the top here. I already have a group of instruments selected, so I want to assign them any one of these constants. I'm going to say this is the perk block, and I say OK. Now they are assigned that role, and if I say, hey, let's select the perk, it'll select that, and I can see where they will end up throughout the show. Perhaps this will help me understand if that's the place I would like them to be throughout the show. That looks pretty good. All right. If I don't like that assignment, I can always undo it. So Command Z or Edit Undo will undo that instrument assignment. And now I see that they are set as default. Let's redo that assignment. Okay. Now going over to, let's say, for instance, I want a special instrument group. Perhaps these would be, say, something like a color guard. I can always set up instruments, and let's say I want to assign them these actually. This should be some special group, say color guard. Okay, so now I have several instruments here. I've got my color guard group, I've got my perk block, and I've got my trumpet. If I were to do an instrument assignment right now on all of this, you'll note that I have many different groups. So the set assignment instruments here says there's multiple items there. And since you can't play multiple instruments in a show, well, at least not with this version of Calchart, it won't let you change anything. So let's instead say I want to select this perk block, and I actually note, and you'll note they're all spread throughout, which is kind of what I would expect. And let's maybe change this one to alto sax. Awesome. So that's a way what I can do is I can change the assignments of the instruments for the marchers in the show. Now let's talk about sprites. So this is pretty fun. Going over here, let's say I want to bring up the animation view. So I'm going to the view animation, and we've had this animation view for a while, and these dots sort of indicate which direction the marchers are going. However, it's not as interesting to look at, and maybe doesn't give us the information about how this looks on the field. So what we've added here is another button here. You'll notice that underneath zoom or collision, which is the sprites. If you turn on sprites, what we do is we have a small picture animation for each of the marchers. This is the one from the Omni view, which is, well, unfortunately, or fortunately, all trumpet players. When I play this, you see that it's actually a lot more interesting of a show to watch, and maybe gives you an idea of how the show is set to go and what it'll look like on the field. Right now, the marchers are a little bit larger than they would be in real life. And what we can do is by going into our preferences with our drawing preferences, we can scale them perhaps to be a little bit more of what we would expect. Perhaps, a marcher on the field is more, just a little bit tinier. So, and that's probably a little too small. but you can manipulate whatever size you want to your particular goal that you're trying to achieve. Yeah, that might not be really the right size either. And that is it for what we've brought in Calchart 3.6.1. I hope you enjoy it.